Okay, there we go. Okay, properties of parallel lines. So this should look familiar from Friday. Assignment actually should look familiar from when we did the 1-5B on Alex. We talked about the fact that when you have one line and it crosses two other lines, all these angles that it creates. We learned the definitions of alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, corresponding angles. Same-sided interior angles, also sometimes called consecutive interior angles. We learned the definition of all those there. Now you're awake? So we're not learning the definitions of what they are. Now we're learning that when these angles are created by two parallel lines being crossed by transversal, there are special relationships as far as the measure of these angles that we know. So now that we know, if you look at the directions, it says if A is parallel to B, there are only two angle measures for all 8 angles, and they must be supplementary. We learned that on Friday. So all of these angles have a supplementary angle somewhere in it. So angle 1 has an angle it's congruent to, but it also has an angle that it would be supplementary to. So for the first definition, or the first pair of angles, alternate interior angles, it says, if A is parallel to B, then they are what? So let's find a pair of alternate interior angles. So they both have to be inside, so it's got to be one of these 4 angles. But alternate means what, Dallas? What does alternate mean on these angles? Alternate. So we know that both interior angles, so we know they have to be a pair from the inside, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But this says alternate interior, so what do we know? So it's the opposite, so we're going to say opposite side. Opposite side of what? No? Opposite side of the transversal, right? So 3 is on the same side with 5. They're both interior angles, but we need the alternate or the opposite, so angle 3 and angle 6. So what we know as a statement of rule in geometry, and we'll use this to find the angles of the measures of angles, is that these angles are congruent. This is only if these lines are parallel. And it does not say they're parallel here, but up here it tells us if they're parallel. Up here, right here it tells us, it indicates that they're parallel. So when it says that, this is the indication that lines are parallel. So like we have one arc on each angle tells us that the angles are congruent. One dash on each segment tells us that the segments are congruent, which is similar. It doesn't tell us they're congruent, but it tells us that these 2 lines are parallel. So you are writing that in your notes right now. So you're putting the little indicator on there. It means they're parallel. So now we know we've marked that line A and line B are parallel to one another. Line C is the transversal. Give me a pair of alternate exterior angles in this diagram, Helen. Alternate exterior. Sorry? Yes, 1 and 8. They're both exterior. They're both be on the outside of the 2 lines, but opposite sides of the transversal. So 1 and 8 are definitely alternate exterior angles, as are 2 and 7. 1 and 2, remember, are both exterior angles, but they can't be adjacent. They can't be beside one another. So they are also congruent. Corresponding angles. Corresponding angles, there's no interior or exterior in the name of these angles. Can you give me a pair of corresponding angles, Miles? Can you give me a pair of corresponding angles to this diagram? Welcome to look at your notes. Remember, congruent. So 1 and 5, 2 and 6, 4 and 8, 3 and 7, 1 inside, 1 outside. If it doesn't tell you which it is, which they are, then it has to be one of each. And same side interior angle. So all interior, but not alternate, same side. So 3 and 5, 4 and 6. Those angle pairs, when they're created with parallel lines, are not congruent. They are supplementary. We know that 1 and 3 are supplementary because they're a linear pair. We know that 1 or 2 are supplementary because they're a linear pair. 3 and 5 are not a linear pair, but per this rule, if these two lines are parallel and these angles are created by lines crossing them, that we know that these two angles and these two angles would be supplementary. Any questions? Identify all of the numbered angles that are congruent to the given angle. So the given angle, so these angles are all just numbered to give them a name, except for this one. They're giving it a measure of this angle. So this would be the given angle. So what angles do we know are congruent to this angle? From all of the lessons we've learned, not just what we just learned, right? Is there a vertical angle to that angle? What's the angle that's part of a vertical pair with that angle? Anybody? Yeah. So remember, don't look at that. Two lines across, they create vertical angles. So are vertical angles congruent? So now we know that that angle is congruent to angle 6, right? So we learned, look at what you just wrote in your notes. We learned all of these pairs of angles we learned except for same side interior are congruent. So can we find a pair of alternate interior angles? Well, this is not an interior angle, so we can't find an alternate interior angle. That's not can't be part of an interior pair, right? So this is an exterior angle. So what could it possibly be? It could be part of what? Could be a corresponding, right? So what would be the angle that's corresponding, part of that corresponding pair, Darren? Angle 6. Angle 6 is a vertical angle, right? So corresponding is same side, but one inside, one out, right? So this is out, so what's the one that's inside? So it can't be adjacent. Angle 3, right? Vertical? Yes, and angle 3, corresponding. So we know they're congruent, which means their measures are equal. Not technically the same thing, right? And what's the last one? Is there another exterior pair that are congruent when they're created with parallel lines? Look at your note that you just took. Figure. Number 4, what kind of angle is number 4? Do we have a good question? What's the other kind of exterior angle you see on that? Alternate exterior angle, right? Those are congruent. What angle is an alternate exterior angle to 114? Alternate means opposite side of the chain circle, and it's got to be exterior, right? So these two are exterior. Which one would it be? Alternate side, yeah. You'll use the names of these angles to help you remember them and to help you use them. I promise it will help you. All right, so we've got two parallel lines here and two different transversals. So don't let it freak you out. You can just cover up this one and do these 8, right? cover up this one and do these angles, right? What we're doing is giving it the measure of two angles, one on this set and one on this set. And then we're going to use our rules we just learned and our vertical angle rules to find the measure of all the other angles. Remember, the first thing we said in our notes here is that the very first thing you put said that when this line crosses two other lines, you create 8 angles. There's only 2 measures. So if 110 is the measure of angle 3, then all the angles are going to be measured 110 or 70. So they have to add up to 80, right? So if this is 110, the only other measurement that can be anywhere up here is 70. If this is 55, the only other measurement besides 55 has to be 180 minus 55, which is 125. So there's only 2 possible degrees that we could be right. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go ahead and mark our given, write our given. The measure of angle 3 is 110. And the measure of angle 12 is 55. So using the information we know about angle pairs, we're either going to label angles as 110 degrees because they're congruent, or we're going to label them as 70 degrees because they're supplementary to this angle, right? What is the measure of angle 8? The measure of angle 8. What kind of angle is 8? Say it again. 110, good, Ashlyn. 110. It's they're congruent. What kind of angles are those, Ashlyn? Yes, very good. Vertical angles are congruent, so that was 8, so we're going to fill in 8. Is there another angle that you can pick out that's congruent to angle 3? We learned about all the ones that are congruent today, so everything except for the same side interior angles are congruent. Same side interior angles are supplementary, so it's going to be an alternate interior, alternate exterior, or corresponding angle with another angle. So this is the interior, right? Angle 3. Can you give me the alternate interior angle that makes it a pair? Devanshi? 1. That's a that's corresponding, right? But they are congruent. So we'll miss that one, right? That's not the one I asked you. Yes, they are congruent. But they're congruent because they are corresponding, right? One's inside, one's outside from the same side of transfer side, right? If alternate interior angles that are congruent, yes, good job, Darren. Alternate interior angles, don't forget to uncover it. So 1, 6, 8, yep. Okay. What about 1 and 5? What do we know about 1 and 5? We only have 2 possible things we could be writing, 110 or 70, right? So 1 and 5, they are same side, same side exterior. We don't have a rule for that. But we do have a rule for a linear pair, right? They're a linear pair. They share this side, and their side they don't share makes a line. So this one is going to be supplementary, right? So it's going to be the 180 minus 110, which would make it 70. So they're all going to be either 110 or 70. What kind of angle pair would angle 5 and angle 4 be? Angle 5 and angle 4. Are they interior, exterior, or one of each? That's where we start. What do you think, Carla? Are they 5 and 4, are they both interior, both exterior, or one of each? So interior, exterior is relative two lines. Because these are the inside angles, right? In between the lines are the interior. In between. So these are both on the outside of those two lines, so they are exterior, right? And they're on the opposite or alternate side. So these are alternate exterior angles. We learned that those are congruent today. If they are formed with parallel lines and a transversal. We learned that same side interior angles are what, Thomas? Same side interior angles. Look at your notes for today. Same side interior angles are what? Supplementary. So what's going to be the measured angle 2? What's supplementary mean? Add together they equal what? 90 or 180. Which is it? Yes, 180. So what's measured angle 2 going to be? -110, right, buddy? 70. Remember, they all have to be either 110 or 70. And last but not least, another alternate interior angle on 2 and 7. They're both going to be 70 degrees. So we've got the first 8 angles done. So this transversal, with a different transversal across these two parallel lines. Now this angle is 55 degrees, so everything will be based off that. So what is the measure of angle 15? What's the measure of angle 15, Adine? 110? So we're looking at 55 here. Now, we're done with this one. So now this is the one that's all going to be 55 or 125. So 180 minus 55 is 125. So those are only two options, right? So what kind of angle does 12 and 15? What is the name of this angle? So I'm sure you need this. It's not on that one, right? It's from the last test. So you have two lines that cross to create two pairs of what kind of angle? So these two lines are crossing here and here. This pair and this pair. What do we call those? Remember? They're called vertical angles, right? So 12 and 15 are vertical angles, and we learned that vertical angles are congruent. So angle 15 is also 55 degrees. Which angle is an alternate exterior angle to angle 12? Amaria? Which angle is an alternate exterior angle with number 12? They both have to be exterior. Alternate means what do you think? 5? Oh, 9. No, that's the same side, right? Alternate means opposite, right? Alternate exterior. These two exterior, these two exterior, but it's opposite side of the transversal. So 13 would be the alternate exterior angle that goes to 12. We know that those are congruent. We know that 15 is 55 degrees. So now we should know what the measured angle 10 is, right? Those would be alternate interior angles. What do we learn about alternate interior angles? Can we figure it out? What do we know about alternate interior angles and they're created with parallel lines and transversals? Are they congruent or supplementary? Congruent. So 10 is about 55 degrees as well. Angle 10 and angle 11. What kind of angles are those, Morgan? Angle 10 and angle 11. What kind of angles here are those? Corresponding. They're not corresponding. Corresponding is one interior, one exterior, right? It's the other one. No? Of course, because it's the same side, right? I forgot which angles I told you, Morgan. Which one are we talking about? Oh, 10 and 16? Did I say 10 and 16? Oh, 10 and 11. Okay, 10 and 11. So same side, interior angle. Right? Literally, they're called same side interior angles. What does that say on your paper about those? They're supplementary. So if this is 55, then 11 has to be 180 minus 55, right? So this is going to be 125. All the angles here will either be 55 degrees or 125 degrees. What's the measure of angle 16, Nadine? Another pair of vertical angles, right? See the two lines that are across somebody? Good, 125. What kind of angles are angle 14 and angle 16, Helen? Corresponding, very good. Corresponding angles didn't say if they were interior or exterior, that's because it's one of each. We learned today that corresponding angles are also congruent. And we're down to number 9, or angle 9. What's the measure of angle 9, Miles? Got to be 55 or 125, right, buddy? Right? What's the measure of the angle? What number are we going to put there? The other 55 degrees to 125. All right. Yes. Vertical angle to angle 14. It's also a supplementary angle to angle 10 or angle 13. So the measure of angle 9 is 125 degrees. Any questions on that? Or there's two angle measure angle. There's two angle 4s. Did you guys correct it? My angle 4 is here. You have two angle 4s. So make this an angle 5 if you didn't already. This is going to be an angle 5. On your notes, there's two angle 4s. It says so right here. Oh no, it just missed it. Oh, this one the thing is. So make the second one your angle 5. Yeah. Same question. Thanks, Marielle. So here on your paper it says measure angle 4 and measure angle 4. Just change that to the measure angle 5. Okay. So we see that these lines are parallel. It doesn't tell us they're parallel. Remember, these things we learned about all our angle curves today, congruent or supplementary, is only the case if the lines, if there's two lines that the change goes crossing are parallel. If they're not parallel, we can't say those things are true. So we have to look either they're going to tell us they're parallel or they're going to put these little arrows on here. So remember, these mean that they're parallel. So this means that the lines are parallel. And if the lines are parallel, now we know we can use those rules for angle pairs being congruent or not congruent. So these lines are parallel. So this pair of lines are parallel, and these two pair of lines are parallel. So we've got 8 angles here and 8 angles here. So we're going to be working with. Does that make sense, Vivian? Okay. It says the measure of angle 5 is 2 times x minus 10. The measure of angle 6 is 4 times y minus 100. The measure of angle 7 equals x plus 15. So once you find x and y, and find the measure of angles 5, 6, and 7. Okay? We're going to start. So the other way, so we look at there's 8 angles here, 8 angles here. We can also look at these 8 angles. Does that make sense, Ashley? You really have 4 sets of 8 angles because they're all parallel lines, right? And that only works because they're all parallel lines. So what we want to look at first is we can solve for x if we have two expressions that we know their relationship. Like if we know they're supplementary, or if we know they're congruent, or if we know they're complementary. So what do we know about angles 5 and angle 7? They both have x's. We should be able to write an equation to solve for x, because they both have only x's as a variable. But what do we know about these angles, angle 5 and angle 6? Are they congruent? Are they supplementary? Are they complementary? What do we know? Let's look and see what kind of angles are they. Are they both interior? Are they both exterior? Or are they one of each? One of each. That's right. The 5 is in between these two lines. So we're going to treat this line as our transversal. That means that angle 5 is in between the lines, but angle 7 is outside. So what is it called? What is the pair of angles we learned about? One's inside and one's outside. Corresponding. What did we learn today about corresponding angles when they're created from two parallel lines? They're congruent. That's right. So now we know that angle 5 is congruent to angle 7, and so we know the measure of their angles are equal. So we can set 2x minus 10 equal to x plus 15. We can subtract x from both sides. We can add 10 to both sides, and now we know that x equals 25. Well, now we can look at, oops, not what I wanted to do. So now we can look at these 8 angles, right? So these 8 angles, angle 5 and angle 6 now are angle pairs we can look at. Angle 5 and angle 6 are alternate exterior angles, right? What do we know about alternate exterior angles? Didn't we know? You just wrote it down. What do we know about alternate exterior angles? They're congruent. So we know the measure of this angle equals this one. So I got an x and a y. No problemo though. Remember, I can plug in my x there. So we know, okay, so let's do that. So now we know the measure of angle 5 is equal to 2 times 25 minus 10. So the measure of angle 5 is actually 40. So now we can use 40 here being congruent to 4y minus 100, or being equal to 4y minus 100. So that is the equation we're going to write. 4 times y minus 100 equals 40 degrees, because that's what the measure of angle 5 is. Then add 100 to both sides. Okay. Add 100 to both sides. Divide both sides by 4. And so now we know that y is 35. And we also know they're all congruent, right? If angle 7 is congruent to angle 5, angle 5 is congruent to angle 6. Now we know angle 6 is congruent to angle 7. That's transitive property. So we know they're all 40 degrees. So by finding the measure of one angle, now we know the measure of all of them, all 3 angles, because they're all congruent. Caught up with me? All right. Yes? No? Not quite? Okay. So now we have proof. I've not graded very many of your tests, but proofs were not great. Proofs were not great of the ones I've graded so far. Remember that given information, so let's read the top of this problem. Given x, what do those 2 vertical lines mean? It's parallel to, right? So we read that x is parallel to y, and we look at our diagram, we see that line x is parallel to line y. And we're proving that angle 1 is supplementary to angle 8. So the first thing we're going to start at the top, they wrote our given. So now what is the reason? So how do we know that x is parallel to y? What's the reason it's going to go there? What do you think, Thomas? It's literally right there, right? It's given. Most of you got that part right in the proof, to be fair. if we're proving that angle 1 is supplementary to angle 8, we should know at this point, it's going to be my last statement. I don't know why this board is being so bad today. It's worse than normal. So these things, if we were writing it from scratch, we could start here and we know we have to end here. If we were writing it from scratch without these numbers in here, we might not know it's going to take us 7 steps, but we would know that that has to be our last statement, okay? And we don't know what the reason for that is. We're going to work our way to that. So we're working to prove, back up. We're working to prove that angle 1 here is congruent to angle 8. So we kind of start, we're going to start with one or the other of those angles. So we're going to pick angle 1. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. So we know that angle 1 and angle 8 they are same side exterior angles. Do we have a rule for that? Do we have a rule for same side exterior angles? We do not, right? We have same side we have alternate exterior. They're congruent. We have corresponding angles, one's inside, one's outside, but we don't have a rule for both outside on the same side of the transversal. So that's what we're trying to prove. So we're going to make a path from either 1 to 8 or 8 to 1, kind of. So pick one of those. They picked 1, so that's what we're going to use. So we know that angle 1 and angle 5, one inside, one outside, what kind of angles are those? Corresponding. So we know they're congruent, right? And that's why they're congruent, because they're corresponding angles. So now we're going to go from the angle being congruent to the measure of the angles being equal, right? We have to go from the angles being congruent, because supplementary means what? What does it mean for angles to be supplementary? What does it mean for the angles to be supplementary, Charlie? What adds up? The measure of the angles. If we're talking the measure of the angles, we just can't talk about angle 1 being congruent to, right? We got to kind of convert that thought process to the measure of the angle. So the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 5, and that is the definition of congruence. I'll let you use substitution on that first test for this reason, but we're not going to use that. And a few of you, just are the ones that graded, use definition of congruence correctly. So while this is kind of a substitution, anytime we have a rule or postulate that's more specific to our statement, we're going to use that one versus substitution. So we can say that we're substituting here, equivalent things, but we are going to use the definition of congruence here. Okay. What do we know about angle 5 and angle 8? Angle 5 and angle 8. So remember, we're trying to make our way to angle 8, kind of, right? So we know the relationship between 1 and 5. What's the relationship between 5 and 8? They're supplementary. Why are they supplementary? How do we know they're supplementary? They're not an angle pair that we learned about for this unit, right? This angle pair we learned about, they share the same side, and their opposite sides make a line. They're what kind of pair? They're supplementary. That's not the pair we're talking about right now. Say it again. Linear. Very good. They are linear. Angle 5 and 8, so those add up. Their measures add up to 180. So we're going to say that angle 5 and angle 8 are supplementary because they are a linear pair. Now we've got to convert, we've got to go from the angles to the measures. So that means that the measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 8, we said supplementary means they equal 180, and that's because they form a straight angle. That line, that non-shear side forms a straight angle. And how many degrees are in a straight angle? 180, right? So we know angle 5 and angle 8 are supplementary. We know angle 1 and angle 5 are congruent. So now we know that if angle 1 and angle 5 are congruent, then their measures have to be equal, right? So now we know that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 8 equals 180 degrees, and that's substitution. And now what we're trying to prove, angle 1 is supplementary to angle 8, and the reason for that is the definition of supplementary. Add their measures together, and they equal 180. That's the definition of supplementary, right? That is how we do write a proof using the new things we learned about angle pairs today. All right. Anybody need to go back to any of the pages? You can scan and submit your notes then. We've got a few minutes. We're not going to pack up until 51. Yeah, we're not going to pack up until 51. So you can scan, submit, and work on a couple problems. Make one problem. Let me know if you see one that looks you think you might need help getting started on. That's the beauty of at least being able to read the directions. Are there directions that you don't understand? Now's the time to ask about that.